Hello, dear listener. Tonight, I'm not only taking you to think about the Middle Ages, but to live it as if it were the first time. The nights polished by films, clashing swords, feast tables. They will remain outside this night. Here there is the cold of the mud, the emptiness feeling of a thin soup, hunger squeezing your chest, and the steam of your breath. If you were a slave or a serf tied to the land in the Middle Ages, could you really survive? Take this question with you. If in the middle of this journey you really feel as if you are there, at that moment, take a small moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments from where and at what time you are listening. It feels fascinating to step into the same foggy morning together from different corners of the world. Now, dim the lights, relax your shoulders, breathe in, breathe out, if you are ready. Break free from this age that holds you and slowly fall into a cold, smoky dawn. The moment you open your eyes, the first layer filling your nostrils is the heavy, damp smell of hay. Beneath it, fine ash, sooty smoke, sour cabbage, and coarse linen soaked with sweat all night. Your head throbs, as if hunger is scraping the inner walls of your skull from inside. What covers you is not a blanket, a roughly woven, thick, damp, heavy piece made with thick yarn. When you hold its edge, coarse fibers prick your fingertips like thorns. You touch your forehead. Cold sweat like a film, this like nausea turning inside leaves nothing but emptiness. When you put your elbows on the ground, you realize the floor is uneven, hard clay waves, thin coal fragments mixed inside, manure and ash, between the tufts of hay beneath, tiny. Quick movements, bucks, your skin shivers, you want to pull back, but the hay splinters wedged between your fingers cling to your nail lines. From the wall of the hut a grey line seeps. Dawn has not yet revealed itself, only a pale, leaden brightness from the darkness, hanging from the ceiling, not fragrant, shaved, pale-colored bundle, yarrow or dried sage. Their scents hang at the edge of mold in this dense humidity. In one corner is small clay bowl with a chipped rim. At the bottom, a thin sediment, early water from last night's thin pottage. When you touch it with your finger, the oily film feels like a dull membrane from the cold. Suddenly, the hut's door is pulled to the right, the friction of a thick wooden slat like a muffled scream. A silhouette in the doorway, a man with slightly hunched shoulders, his skin colors mixed mud, soot, sweat in his hand, a short-handled hoe carrying the dull shine of iron. You don't fully understand the words coming out of his mouth, but the harsh rhythm turns into a command beyond the folds of language. Hurry. The sun is rising. The demand field waits for no one. The word demand sounds strange in your tongue, but sticks in your brain. The land set aside by the Lord for himself. The first hours of the day belong to it. When you stand up, your bare feet touch the crust of the soil through hay remnants. The earth is not icy more like a heavy, wet cold seeping into the bone. The mud climbing between your toe sticks because of its slightly felty texture, as if it wants to pull you back. Your knees tremble. For a moment you think the strength will drain from your kneecaps. Rolling your shoulders forward, when you step outside the hut, the air does not slap your face. More insidious, the moist tongue of fog gliding on your cheek, mixing with your breath and weighing down your chest, crooked reed roofs in patches. Some have turned dark brown from decay. Mud plaster on walls cracked in places, fibers sticking out, as if the huts are open. Two children run past a hut. One slips his bare sole on the mud, almost falls. He looks at you with a thin twig in his hand. His gaze quick, suspicious, then disappears. The dirt on their faces is not only dirt, pale signs of malnutrition on their cheeks. Purple circles under their eyes dot in the distance. The first toll of a cracked bell fills the fog. The metal sound spreads muffled, a call to the prima, the first sign cutting the day's rhythm. An involuntary tightening inside. Time is no longer yours. The bells cycle, the list of Corvey days, the Lord's bailiff's calculated work obligations, the church's tithe expectations. And above all the grinding emptiness of your stomach, a man passing on your right carrying leather ropes wrapped round his waist like a woven belt. The village reeve. His gaze measures, records, behind him. Someone with a harsher face, probably the bailiff. His mind busy with grain measures, day, counts, heriots to be paid after death, and lists of possible penalties. A couple of thin voices whisper behind, talking about a villain caught last week, his hands nailed to a post, his small pilly prepared for him. You don't understand the language, but the suddenly rising mocking laughter tells you that punishment here mixes with entertainment. Before you stretches the open field system, long, narrow strips, each strip separated by thin grey lines shining with dew on the northern side, raised ridges opened by the plough last season. Like ribs, the part yours to work on today is at the edge of the Lord's demesne strip. When you crutch on the soil and press your fingers lightly, a mixture of rain and organic sediment, stickier grey clay beneath, it quickly fills under your nails, on the edge of your nail. A slightly bruised crack, seams formed the previous day. Next to you, a sticky wooden handle with a rusty iron tip is left. A heavy odd pot. A pair of oxen is brought, their yokes thick, fibers worn fuzzy by rubbing. On the oxen's skin, dried mud crusts cracked, revealing fresh moist spots beneath. Their breaths are warm, steamy. When I have closed with a pus line, a youth gently touches their shoulder with a thin whip-like twig to make them walk. You would expect a whip sound. But here it's more rhythmic. Disciplined driving, enough hardness not to waste time. When you're asked to embed the plough into the soil surface, a fine burning begins in your palms. Though not unfamiliar with your feet, your muscles flail as if they don't know this movement. When the iron tip hits the stone roots, a spark vibration leaps into your nerves. A hot pain spreads across your shoulder girdle, breath short and cut. Inside you involuntarily, endure, push, pull, push, pull. The rhythm builds, drum weave inside your mind. Friction lines redden on your wrists dot an old woman on your left, then, with sunken cheeks, casts a quick glance at you. She wipes a thin spit line dripping from her chin with the coarse texture of her arm. Then a barely noticeable smile at the corner of her lips. You haven't broken yet. You answer without sound. Your throat dry, your tongue stuck to gums. The wave of hunger inside echoes like a hollow gone sound in your rib cage. Suddenly, shouts rising from the village center reach the field. 2 men have bent a youth on, turning his wrists behind. As he struggles, mud splashes. They drag him beside a post. A whisper swarm. Attempted escape. Gathering wood in the forest without Lord's permission. Or maybe just rumors. The bailiff throws a sharp phrase as the youth's knees sink into the mud. A muffled moan. A brief wave of indifference spreads round, as if no one's shock center remains. A thin, cold shiver runs inside. In this world, the body is only a vessel for work. The wind changes direction, a low intensity, stable barn smell mixed with moisture from behind the village huts. Animal manure, urine, moly hay at the same time, the cleaner, gentler smell of freshly cut wood shavings. Your senses are full, time stretches. You are not sure whether a few minutes or an hour has passed. You understand the sun has risen only from the change in the whiteness tone of the fog. Milky opaque grey thins very slightly dotted as the burning in your hands increases. Your mind realizes the math of this life. Morning to men work. Then maybe your own strip. Cold soup in the evening. Hay at night. Kneeling like stone on church floor during occasional services, the product set aside, as tithe on certain days of the week, even in death the best animal taken back by the Lord as Hiriot. Survival is not only muscle, rhythm, submission, micro-savings, career counting, adaptation. How quickly could you integrate into any of these? Take a breath. Feel the raw muscle pain in your chest as you inhale. Let your fingers bury into the soil as you exhale. 1, 2, 3, and release. This rhythm will frequently return in the upcoming scenes and help you relax. The steps of the oxen grow heavier. The young driver gives a short cry. A worm writhing at the edge of the plow track rises. Its moist body shines grey burgundy. Even this little creature is an open snack for a predatory bird exposed by the turning of the soil. Here, everyone's existence serves the cycle. You are still kneeling in the damp earth, your fingers stained with clay, and the iron tang of sweat lingering in your mouth. The first scene's cold breath is still on your skin. But now your senses sharpen. A whisper of realization seeps into your mind. This world is not just fields, smoke, and aching limbs. It is a web of obligations, invisible threads that bind every man, woman, and child to the soil beneath their feet. The old woman beside you straightens her back for a moment, her thin spine curved like the handle of a worn scythe. Her lips tremble as she mutters something you cannot quite catch, but the word villain stands out. It is not merely a title, it is a condition of birth. Here, the chain does not rattle, yet it is heavier than iron. A reeve walks past, counting. The workers, his eyes are cold, practical, like someone taking stock of tools rather than souls. You catch a glimpse of a leather roll hanging from his belt, filled with notes scratched onto parchment records of labor days owed, fines for late work, and grain tallies behind him. The bailiff, his shoulders broad, his face carved from, stone glances at you as if he can already measure the weight of your worth. His presence is suffocating, a reminder that in this world, every breath of freedom has a price. The woman's voice trembles again. Born to the soil, die in the soil. She gestures to the ground beneath you, as if the mud itself holds the memory of generations, swallowing bones and dreams alike. Here, you are not simply poor, you belong. Your body, your labor, even your children's future, are part of this estate's ledger. The landowner, the distant lord, in his home might never know your face, but he owns the rhythm of your days. A distant shout cuts through the fog. A group of men is gathering near a wooden post at the edge of the field. Curiosity pulls you closer. Though your steps sink deep into the mud, a young man, barely older than a boy, is being tied to the post. His face is gaunt, his eyes filled with both fear and defiance. A thin voice in the crowd whispers, "He tried to leave, without permission," another mutters. The woods called him, but the woods are not his. You feel a cold current run through your veins. You realize that here, leaving is not simply walking away. It is theft of labor, of service, of what the Lord believes is his by right. The punishment is swift, designed not just to hurt, but to remind everyone watching that freedom is not an option. The bailiff speaks a few harsh words, and a whip cracks the air. The young man's cry tears through the fog, raw and piercing. The villagers watch with a silence that feels heavier than sound. Some look away. Others stare as if memorizing the lesson for their own survival. You feel your stomach twist, and for a moment, the question burns. Would I have survived here? Would I break, or would I obey? The scene shifts when a deep bell tolls from the direction of the manor. The tone is not loud, but it vibrates through the mist, calling everyone back to their duties. You return to your patch of soil. The oxen snort, pulling the crude plow forward. their breath steaming like small fires in the cold air. Your hands, raw and red, grip the wooden handle. Every muscle in your body screams. But there is no pause, only the rhythm of survival daughters. You work. You begin to understand the cruel arithmetic of this life. Your labor pays for your right to exist, but it never frees you. A portion of what you grow will go to the tithe tax to the church. Another portion belongs to the Lord, as rent for the very ground beneath your feet. What remains, if anything, is yours. But hunger often claims that before you do, nearby, two men argue over a broken tool. Their voices rise and fall like the tide, the words filled with exhaustion rather than anger. Tools are scarce. A snapped wooden handle could mean days of lost labor. One man points to a small hut by the road where the blacksmith works. His forge is humble, the fire low, yet his skill is the only thing keeping the village from collapsing. Even he, though, is bound to the Lord's needs before his own. You catch a glimpse of the manor's outline through the thinning fog. It is not the grand castle of stories, but a sturdy wooden hall surrounded by a crude palisade. Smoke drifts from its chimney, carrying the smell of roasted meat, a smell that twists the hunger in your stomach like a knife. It is strange knowing that only a few hundred paces away, warmth and feasting exist, while here, in the fields, people gnaw on scraps of bread so hard they crack their teeth. A soft voice breaks your thoughts. It is the old woman again. She points toward a patch of wild herbs growing at the field's edge. Nettle, sorrel, and plantain. They keep us alive, she murmurs, when there's nothing else. You kneel beside her, helping gather a handful. The plants sting your fingers, but their sharpness is a small price compared to the hollow ache of hunger. These herbs, boiled into a thin soup, will be dinner, not enough to satisfy. Only enough to keep the body moving. A crow lands on the fence, post, watching you with glossy black eyes. Its caw splits the quiet air, and you wonder if it is mocking or warning you. In the distance, children chase each other through the mud, their laughter thin but persistent, even in hardship. Life finds ways to flicker. A small girl with tangled hair stops to stare at you. Her gaze is curious, almost questioning, as if she wonders why you look so different, so lost. The day grinds forward. The fog has begun to lift, revealing a sky of pale, washed-out blue. Sweat clings to your back despite the cold. Every movement of the plough feels heavier, as if the earth itself resists being turned. The oxen stumble. One of them lets out a deep, mournful sound, and you realize even the animals share this burden. You think of the chains again, not the visible kind, but the ones forged from tradition, law, and fear. Here, freedom is a story told by firelight, not a reality. You imagine, for a fleeting moment, what it would be like to run, to vanish into the forest beyond the fields. The thought is tempting, but it dissolves quickly when you remember the boy tied to the post. The forest is no sanctuary. Without land, without community, survival is even crueler. A breeze sweeps across the field, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke and something sweet, maybe honey, though you cannot tell if it is real or only a memory from a better life. The sound of the flute returns, that same fragile tune, drifting over the hills. It feels like a lullaby, a reminder that even in this harsh world, there is still space for a small, human moments. The reeve's voice calls out once more, commanding the workers to finish this row before midday. Your arms tremble as you push the plough forward. One step, another. The soil yields slowly, grudgingly. You focus on your breathing, trying to find a rhythm. Inhale with the step. Exhale with the push. 1, 2, 3. Like the beating of a heart dot by the time you reach the end of the field, Your body feels like it has aged years. Your hands are blistered. The raw skin stings when the wind touches it. Yet there is no celebration, no relief, only the knowledge that this was just the morning's work. The afternoon will bring more tasks: gathering wood, patching roofs, tending animals, and after all of it, a bowl of thin pottage and a few hours of restless sleep on damp straw. You look at the horizon. The pale sun is climbing higher now, cutting thin shafts of light through the mist. It illuminates the village, its crooked roofs, the smoke curling from chimneys, the distant shapes of people moving like shadows. You are part of this world now. Its chains wrap round you, heavy but invisible, whispering that there is no escape, only entrance. The first thing that strikes you as you return from the Domain fields is the hum of voices blending with the smell of damp earth and smoke. The village is no longer quiet. It pulses like a living organism, every hut and every narrow pathway, filled with a rhythm of survival. From the far end, the sharp clack of a wooden mallet on a block echoes. Someone is repairing a wheel or tightening the iron ring of a cart. The sound is steady, almost hypnotic, merging with the low bleating of goats and the occasional bark of a lean dog nosing through discarded scraps. A narrow, winding path leads you between crooked wattle fences. Their wooden stakes are warped from years of rain and frost, patched with bundles of straw tied with brittle, frayed rope as you brush past them. The texture of dried reeds scratches your skin lightly. There's a lingering scent of old urine, likely from animals penned nearby, mixed with the sour tang of fermenting cabbage and turnip stored in clay pits. Your stomach clenches instinctively. Hunger makes every smell sharper, more vivid, and somehow both inviting and revolting. On your left, a woman stoops beside a shallow wooden trough, rinsing a ragged length of cloth in muddy water. Her hands are raw, knuckles red and cracked from the constant wet and the scraping of coarse fabric. She glances up at you with a fleeting expression, not quite curiosity, not quite recognition, and then looks away, resuming her work as if you are just another shadow moving through her narrow world. Behind her, a child no older than Fur crouches in the dirt, drawing uneven lines with a stick, his face smudged with ash and his bare feet caked with mud that looks more like a second skin than dirt. T. Hiri's voice cuts through the murmur of the village like a whip. He is standing near the communal well, his shoulders draped in a patched woolen mantle, and his tone is clipped, decisive. He calls names you don't recognize, possibly villains assigned to fetch water, repair tools, or prepare a part of the Lord's grain for storage. His eyes sweep over you, quick and sharp, as if calculating whether you belong here or if you are filling at some unspoken duty. The pressure of being watched is almost physical. Your spine stiffens, and you feel the weight of invisible chains, the hierarchy that governs every breath in this place. You approach the well. Its circular stone wall is slick with moss and centuries of dampness. A rough hemp rope dangles from the wooden crossbeam above, attached to a bucket worn smooth on the edges from countless pulls. Someone hauls it up, water spilling over the rim in silver streams. The smell of fresh, cold water hits your nose, a welcome contrast to the surrounding staleness. Your mouth waters. But you hesitate. You are not sure if you have the right to take any. Ownership here is a strange, collective thing, yet strictly guarded. Beyond the well, a row of huts stands shoulder to shoulder, their thatched roofs uneven and sunken in places where rain has eaten through the layers. Smoke curls lazily from a few holes, filling the air with the acrid sting of burning peat and damp wood. A rooster crows somewhere, its call raw and hoarse as if it, too, is worn by the daily grind. In front of one hut, two older men sit on upturned barrels, weaving thin willow branches into a crude basket. Their fingers move with automatic skill, twisting and pressing the strips in rhythm. One of them coughs, a deep, chesty cough that rattles like pebbles in a jar, and wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, leaving a grey smear of ash on his beard. The sound of a church bell reaches the village, a single dull note that carries through the mist. It's not the bright, polished sound of a city bell. This one is cracked, uneven, and each toll feels like a reminder of obligation rather than invitation. Heads turn slightly at the sound. Not with excitement, but with resignation. It signals the next task, perhaps the preparation for sext, or a call for the reeve to report to the bailiff. Your eyes are drawn to the church itself, standing at the far edge of the village. It is not grand or majestic, just a squat building of rough stones, its roof patched with wood and straw. A wooden cross leans slightly atop it. Withered and cracked, the churchyard is muddy. The fence round it leaning inward as if tired. Yet, despite its plainness, it holds an undeniable authority. This is where tithes are measured, where confessions of sin or disobedience are made, and where the village's tiny moments of hope, baptisms, marriages, final prayers are tied. Together like fragile knots, a sudden commotion pulls you back from your thoughts. Near the granary, two men argue over a sack of grain, a dispute about whether someone has taken more than his share or failed to deliver enough to the Lord's storehouse. Their words are fast, harsh, filled with the rhythm of fear. Grain is not just food. It is survival currency. Too little delivered and the bailiff will impose a penalty, or worse, take livestock or tools in compensation. Too much. And the family who harvested it will go hungry through the winter you catch. The tense silence that follows their argument as the bailiff himself steps forward, his stern gaze settling the dispute without a single word. His mere presence is enough to scatter the crowd. You move further, toward the edge of the village, where small garden patches grow next to each hut. The vegetables are meager, a few hardy leeks, rough-skinned carrots, and straggly cabbages. With holes eaten by insects, a young girl crouches there, plucking weeds with nimble fingers, humming a tune so faint you barely catch it. Her hair is dangled, her cheeks hollow. But there's something hauntingly sweet about her melody. For a brief moment, it softens the edges of this harsh world as you pass a narrow alley between huts. A group of children runs past you, their laughter short and sharp. One holds a wooden hoop, pushing it along with a stick, while another has fashioned a toy sword from a splintered branch. The game is not light-hearted. Their play mimics battle, shouting words like Lord, thief, and run. You realize these children's games are a mirror of the life they see. Power, punishment, survival. A boy stumbles and falls face first into the mud, but he only wipes his face with his sleeve and jumps up again, grinning through the grime. Your gaze shifts to a nearby hut where smoke seeps through the roof thatch. A thin, stooped woman is inside, stirring something over a small hearth. You peek in and see a dark pot, its surface crusted with soot. The smell is a mixture of watery barley and boiled nettles. She notices you, offers a weary nod, and goes back to stirring. There's no invitation to share. Food is too precious to offer freely. The day lengthens, though the sun remains hidden behind a grey veil of clouds. You sense the village's rhythm tightening. Everyone knows how little time there is between the demands of the Lord and the small scraps of work needed for their own survival. You feel the weight of their lives pressing down on you, like damp wool on your shoulders. Then, from the far side of the village, you hear a distant horn. Its sound is hollow, drawn out. Its signal, the reeve shouts again, and people begin to move, gathering tools, pulling on cloaks, readying themselves for the next task. This relentless cycle does not wait for anyone. You realize that in this place, time isn't measured in minutes or hours, but in duties, in the unbroken chain of work that stretches from dawn to nightfall. Your hands ache, your stomach growls, and a strange fatigue seeps into your bones. You stand there, watching the villagers scatter like birds from a field, each one following a path carved by generations of repetition. And for a fleeting moment, you wonder, how many of them dream of freedom? Or has the thought been beaten out of them by the toll of bells and the crack of the bailiff's voice? The path from the village to the manor is nothing more than a narrow track carved by countless feet, a skull of mud and gravel that winds uphill as you follow it. The sounds of the village slowly fade, the clatter of tools, the murmur of voices. Even the distant call of the church bell becomes muffled, as if swallowed by the earth. In its place rises a strange stillness, broken only by the wind brushing through the hedges and the occasional call of a crow circling high above. The air feels heavier here, carrying a mix of damp soil and the faint metallic scent of iron from the blacksmith's forge. Somewhere further behind you, the manor begins to take shape ahead. Not majestic, but imposing in its own way. Its timber frame is dark and weathered, the walls patched with wattle and daub that bear the scars of years of rain and frost. A low, thatched roof slopes downward, uneven and heavy, with moss creeping across its edges like a slow infestation. The manor is not a castle, not even close, but here it is the seat of power, the place where decisions are made that ripple through every field and hut in the village, the sight of it. Looming at the top of the rise stirs a quiet unease. In your chest, a pair of wooden gates stands at the entrance to the yard. They are rough-hewn, reinforced with iron nails that glint dully in the grey light. One gate is slightly ajar, swinging gently on its hinges, creaking with every touch of the wind. Beyond it, you catch glimpses of movement, a stable boy leading, a horse, its ribs faintly visible beneath a dull brown coat, and a woman carrying a bundle of firewood across the yard. The smell of hay and manure drifts from the stables, mixed with the sharper scent of leather and oil used to care for the saddles and harnesses. You step closer, your boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. The yard is busier than you expected. A man in a rough tunic is splitting logs with a heavy axe, the rhythmic thud of wood on wood echoing like a drumbeat. Nearby, a girl kneels beside a pile of wool, combing it with a crude wooden tool. The fibers cling to her fingers like cobwebs, and her face is pale, her lips chapped from the cold. No one speaks loudly here. Even the sounds of labor feel muted, as if the manor itself demands quiet respect. To your right, the manor's main door stands beneath a small overhang, its wooden planks thick and uneven. Bound by iron strips, a small iron ring serves as the handle. Worn smooth from years of use, you hesitate before approaching it, drawn instead to the side of the yard where a rack of tools leans against the wall. Pitchforks, shovels, and a broad, rusted scythe that looks like it could slice through more than just grain. Each tool is a reminder of the labor road, the dues that tie every villager to this place. The reeve appears from round the corner, his voice sharp and brisk as he barks orders to a pair of men stacking sacks of grain near the granary. His expression is stern, his posture stiff, and when his gaze lands on you, there is a flicker of expectation, or is it judgment? Here, everything is measured, your work, your worth, even the space you occupy. You lower your eyes instinctively, as if acknowledging an unspoken hierarchy that presses down from the very walls. Your attention shifts to the granary itself. A squat building of timber and packed turf, its door secured with a thick wooden bar. The smell of grain lingers in the air, mingled with the faint sweetness of spilled barley that has begun to ferment in the damp corners. Two chickens peck at the ground nearby, clucking softly, their feathers ruffled and dirty. They dart away as a young boy rushes past, carrying a bucket of water that sloshes over the rim. Soaking his worn shoes, a sudden clang draws your gaze to the far side of the yard, where the blacksmith's shed stands. It is little more than a lintel built against the wall, its roof patched with scrap wood. Inside, the blacksmith hammers, a piece of glowing metal, sparks leaping from each strike. The heat radiates outward, cutting through the chill of the air. You can feel the weight of his labor, each blow a testament to the endless cycle of repairing, forging, and supplying. The tools that keep this world turning. The main door creaks open, and for a moment, all movement seems to pause. A man steps out, not the Lord himself, but his steward. He is dressed more finely than anyone else here, his cloak trimmed with fur, though it is worn and thin. His face is angular, his eyes sharp. Scanning the yard like a hawk, he speaks, quietly with the reeve, their conversation too low to catch. But you sense the tension in their words, in the way the reeve nods quickly, almost nervously. Orders are being given, decisions made, and whatever they are, they will ripple through every life in the village. The steward's gaze pauses over you, lingering for a heartbeat too long. It's not curiosity, but calculation. You feel exposed, as if every patch on your clothing, every streak of mud on your boots tells a story you'd rather hide. Then, just as quickly, he turns away, disappearing back into the manor with the reeve following behind him. You let your eyes wander across the yard again. A dog lies curled near the steps. Its fur matted and one ear torn, but its eyes are alert, watching everything. The sound of hooves draws your attention to the stable, where the boy is now brushing the horse's flank, murmuring softly to calm it, the animal's nots, its breath clouding in the cold air. There's a strange intimacy in that scene, a quiet moment of connection amid all the rigid structure and duty. You find yourself drawn toward the edge of the yard, where a row of barrels stands beneath a crude awning. The smell of ale seeps from them, sharp and yeasty. A man in a stained tunic is tapping one of the barrels, filling a clay jug. He nods at you briefly, but there's no warmth in his expression, just the weary acknowledgement of another pair of hands bound by the same system. Above all this, the manor looms, not large, but heavy with presence. It casts a shadow over the yard, over the people, over you. You can almost feel the weight of its history pressing down, as if the walls themselves remember every plea, every punishment, every whispered hope that has passed through its door's dot as the wind shifts. You catch the faint smell of roasted meat coming from within. Your stomach twists, not from hunger alone, but from the knowledge that such meals are rare, reserved for those inside, not for those who toil outside these walls for a moment. You wonder what it would be like to sit by that fire, to taste that food, to be free of the constant grind. But the thought feels dangerous, like a spark that could burn if left unchecked. The afternoon light begins to fade, the sky turning a deeper gray. The shadows of the manor stretch long across the yard, and the air grows colder, dampness settling. In your bones, you sense that this place, for all its authority, is not invincible. The wood rots, the roof leaks, the people obey, but not without silent resentment. Yet for now, the manor stands, and its shadow rules over every breath, every step, every life tethered to it. The path leading away from the manor bends toward the dark edge of the forest, where the trees rise like silent sentinels. Their trunks are thick, gnarled with age, and their roots twist above the ground as though they are crawling creatures. Frozen mid-movement, a faint mist hangs at the forest's edge, curling low round the underbrush, carrying with it the sharp scent of damp moss and decaying leaves. Each step you take feels heavier, the soul softening beneath your boots, pulling you deeper into this place where the world seems to hold its breath. The light changes the moment you cross under the canopy, Sunlight, already pale in the overcast sky, filters through the branches in fractured beams, like shards of broken glass. The silence is not complete. There is the faint rustle of leaves, the creak of distant branches swaying in the wind, and the occasional drip of water from above. Where last night's rain still clings to the foliage, somewhere deep within, a bird calls, not the cheerful song of the fields, but a sharp, singular note, echoing like a warning. You move slowly, careful not to disturb the natural order of the forest. The ground is uneven here, littered with fallen branches and stones slick with moss. Your foot slips once, catching on a root, and the sudden sound, the crack of wood beneath your weight, feels unnaturally loud in this hutch. You pause, holding your breath, waiting. The forest seems to listen too, as if every tree has turned its attention toward you. After a long moment, the quiet resumes, but you feel a prickle on the back of your neck, as though unseen eyes are following your steps. To your left, a stream cuts through the undergrowth. Its water clear, but darkened by the shadows overhead. It moves sluggishly, its surface broken only by the occasional swirl where the current brushes against hidden stones. You kneel beside it for a moment, touching the water with your fingertips. It's icy cold, numbing, as though it flows straight from the heart of the mountain. The sound of it trickling over the stones is soothing, yet there's an unease beneath it, a reminder of how deep and unknowable the forest can be. A crow flutters overhead, its wings slicing through the air with a harsh rustle. It lands on a crooked branch nearby, tilting its head as if studying you, its black eyes glint, catching the faint light, and for a moment it feels like a messenger, a dark sentinel of the woods. It calls once, loud and jarring, then takes off again, its shadow trailing across your path like a streak of ink. You watch it disappear between the trees, a fleeting figure swallowed by the canopy. You continue walking, and the forest deepens. The trees grow closer together, their branches intertwining to form a ceiling of green and brown, blotting out much of the sky. The air grows cooler, the dampness sinking into your clothes. You pass a cluster of mushrooms growing in a ring, small, pale caps that seem to glow faintly in the dim light. You remember the whispers from the village about these fairy rings, places where the boundary between the natural world and the unseen thins. You don't linger. Some paths are better left untraveled. A fallen tree blocks part of the trail, its trunk hollowed by years of rot. The wood crumbles under your touch, soft as ash inside. Tiny insects scurry, disturbed by your presence. Life here is hidden, but relentless. Every inch of soil, every crack in the bark, crawling with creatures too small to see. It is a reminder of how alive this place is, how it breathes and shifts in ways that no human can control. Far ahead, a faint sheep emerges between the trees, an ancient standing stone, withered and covered in lichen. Its surface is carved with symbols, though time and weather have blurred their meaning. You run your fingers over the rough surface, feeling the grooves worn by centuries. No one in the village remembers who placed it here or why, but its presence is undeniable. As though the forest itself grew round it, it feels like a marker, or perhaps a warning. The path curves again, leading to a small clearing. The sudden openness is jarring after the suffocating closeness of the trees. Here, the grass grows wild and untamed, dotted with wild flowers that add splashes of yellow and white against the green. In the center stands a single, massive oak tree, its trunk wider than a cottage wall. Its branches stretch outward like the arms of a giant, twisting and reaching, its leaves whispering secrets with every breath of wind. You pause beneath it, laying a hand on its bark. It's cool and rough, pulsing faintly with the sense of age, as though this tree has witnessed every story ever told in this forest. A breeze sweeps through the clearing, carrying with it the smell of pine and something faintly sweet. Wild honey, perhaps from a hive hidden high above. The sound of bees hums faintly in the distance, a gentle, rhythmic pulse that almost lulls you into stillness. You close your eyes, listening for a moment. It feels as though the forest is singing, not in words, but in the rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the slow creak of wood as branches shift. It's a song of time itself, unending and patient. But beneath this peace lies something else, a tension, a subtle vibration. As if the forest is aware of your intrusion, you think. You hear something beyond the clearing, a faint crack of branches, a footstep that doesn't belong to any animal you know. You turn, scanning the shadows, but there's nothing there, only the stillness, too perfect, as though the forest is holding its breath again. You continue on, leaving the clearing behind. The path narrows further, forcing you to push aside low branches and dark under-tangled vines. The smell of damp earth grows stronger, mingling with the faint, sharp scent of pine sap. You spot a deer trail veering off to the right, marked by faint hoof prints in the mud and tufts of fur caught on the bark. For a moment, you consider following it, imagining where it might lead. Perhaps to a hidden glade or a stream where animals come to drink. But something holds you back, instinct. Maybe not every path in the forest is meant for human feet. The light grows dimmer as the day wanes. The forest shifts with the coming dusk, the bird song fading, replaced by the soft, distant calls of owls. The air cools further, brushing against your skin like the breath of something ancient. You feel it then, the deep, unspoken presence of the woods. It's not hostile, but it is vast, indifferent. You are a small thing here, just a moment passing through its endless life. A sudden movement catches your eye, a fox darting across the path. It's red for a flash of color against the gloom. It stops briefly, turning to look at you, its eyes glinting with a strange intelligence. Then, without a sound, it slips into the underbrush, vanishing as if it was never there. You are left with the impression that the forest is watching you through countless eyes, each branch and shadow alive with unseen life. You press onward, your steps slower now, each sound magnified by the growing quiet. Somewhere behind you, a branch snaps, deliberate, heavy. You freeze, listening. The forest responds with silence, the kind that feels almost deliberate, as if it's waiting for something to happen. But nothing comes. You move again, your pace quickening, your breath fogging in the cool air. The trees begin to thin at last, revealing the faint outline of the path ahead. You catch sight of the sky through the branches, streaks of orange and grey as the sun sets. The forest releases you gradually, as though reluctant to let you go. You step out from the shadows, feeling the open air again, the weight of the trees lifting from your shoulders, and yet, as you look back, the forest looms dark and silent, its secrets buried beneath layers of leaves and time. The forest lies behind you now, but its presence lingers like a shadow. Even as you step onto the narrow dirt path winding toward the hills, the scent of damp earth and pine clings to your senses. And you can almost hear the whisper of leaves, carried on the wind. Ahead, the landscape changes, rolling meadows stretch into the distance, their grasses swaying in slow, wave-like motions as if breathing. A thin mist curls low across the ground, hugging the contours of the land and softening the edges of every shape. It feels like walking through a dream, one where time moves differently, slower, heavier. The path is uneven, worn down by years of footsteps and the wheels of carts long forgotten. Every now and then, you spot a trace of the past, an old wooden post leaning at an angle, its surface rough with splinters and moss. or a half-buried stone that once marked a boundary no one remembers. There's a sense of abandonment here, as though this road was left behind by those who once trusted it to lead them home. You pause to take in the air. It smells faintly of rain. Though the sky above is only streaked with pale grey clouds, heavy, but holding back, a breeze sweeps across the fields, cool against your face, carrying with it a faint, distant sound, perhaps the cry of a bird, or maybe something less familiar. Something that sounds almost like a whisper. You hold your breath, listening, but the sound fades as quickly as it came, lost among the sighs of the wind. On either side of the path, wildflowers bloom in clusters, small, fragile things in shades of violet and pale yellow. Their petals tremble in the breeze, almost like tiny hands waving in some silent greeting. Bees drift lazily between them, their hum soft and soothing, the kind of sound that makes you forget, for a moment, where you are. Yet, beyond this fragile beauty lies a tension you cannot quite name, like an unseen thread pulling at the edges of the world. The mist thickens as you walk, curling round your legs and trailing behind you. It feels alive somehow, moving with intention, as though it is watching you as much as the forest did. Shapes shift in the distance, the silhouette of a twisted tree, the sharp outline of a broken fence post. But as you approach, they dissolve into nothing more than shadows. In the fog, it plays tricks on your vision, making the familiar feel strange and the strange feel familiar. A sound breaks the quiet, the creak of wood, faint but distinct. You turn toward it, scanning the mist. At first, you see nothing, only the pale wash of fog and the muted greens of the meadow. Then, slowly, an old wooden sign emerges from the haze, leaning at a precarious angle. Its surface is cracked, the paint long gone, the words etched into it barely visible. You step closer, running your fingers across its surface, but the letters are too faded to read. Whatever it once warned of, its voice is now lost to time. A shiver runs through you, though the air is not cold enough to explain it. Further along, the path dips slightly, leading into a shallow valley. Here, the mist gathers more thickly, swirling in soft spirals as if stirred by some unseen hand. You can barely see more than a few steps ahead. The world narrows to the sound of your own footsteps, the crunch of dirt beneath your boots, the faint rasp of grass brushing against your clothes. Every so often, a sheep appears in the fog. A boulder, a half-rotted tree stump, a patch of tall weeds, and vanishes as you pass. Your thoughts drift as you walk, the quiet pulling you inward. You think of the manor you left behind, its dark windows and silent halls. You wonder who built it, who lived there, and why it now stands alone, watching over this forgotten road. There is a story here, buried beneath the moss and the silence, waiting to be told. You feel it in your bones, though the details remain just out of reach, like a word on the tip of your tongue. The path climbs again, winding toward a low hill. As you ascend, the mist thins slightly, revealing more of the landscape. You catch glimpses of distant shapes, clusters of trees, perhaps all the remains of old structures. There is one shape, far ahead, that stands taller than the rest. It looks like the remnants of a stone tower, its top crumbled and jagged against the pale sky. Even from here, it radiates a quiet loneliness, like a sentinel that has stood too long without purpose. A sudden gust of wind sweeps across the hill, stronger than before. It rattles the dry branches of a nearby tree, making them clatter like brittle bones. The sound startles a small flock of birds hidden among the grass. They rise all at once, dark shapes cutting through the mist with frantic wings, their cries sharp and echoing. You watch them vanish into the distance, swallowed by the fog and for a moment, the world feels even emptier at the crest of the hill. You stop to catch your breath. The landscape spreads out before you in muted tones, grey, green, and the pale gold of dying grass. The mist drifts lazily here, curling in pockets round low stones and the skeletons of old fences. You spot the faint outline of what might once have been a road, now overgrown and fractured, leading toward the crumbling tower in the distance. Its presence draws you, though you cannot say why. There is something about it, a weight, a memory, that feels important. You begin your descent. The path now little more than a suggestion, broken and uneven. Each step is careful, your boots crunching on loose gravel and damp soil. The sound carries oddly in the mist, echoing faintly as though the hills themselves are whispering your movements back to you. The air grows heavier here, thick with a smell of wet stone and earth. Halfway down, you come across the remains of a wooden cart. It lies on its side, half buried in the grass, its wheels broken and its frame dark with rot. You crouch beside it, running your hand over the rough wood. Whoever abandoned it left long ago. Nature has claimed it now. Vines curling through its spokes, moss clinging to its beams. You imagine the story it might have held, a journey interrupted, a path never finished. The thought lingers with you as you continue walking. The path flattens as you reach the base of the hill. Here, the mist feels thicker again, swallowing the world in silence. Even the breeze has gone still, leaving only the faint sound of your breath and the distant drip of water from somewhere unseen. You pause, straining to listen. And that's when you hear it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. It's not the wind. It's something softer, lower, like words spoken just out of reach. You turn in a slow circle, scanning the fog, but there is nothing there, only the emptiness. You quicken your pace. Though you don't know why, the feeling of being watched creeps back, just as it did in the forest. Each shadow, each twist of mist, feels alive, like ice hidden in the fog. Yet, when you look closer, there's nothing, only emptiness and silence. Your mind plays tricks, weaving stories from the shapes in the haze. At last, the shape of the tower looms closer, emerging slowly from the mist like a ghost rising from the earth. Its stones are dark and crumbling, withered by countless seasons. Ivy clings to its base, winding upward in thick ropes, as if trying to pull the structure back into the earth. There are no doors, only a dark archway yawning like an open mouth. The sight of it sends a chill through you, though you can't say why. You stand before the tower, its shadow stretching across the grass like a scar. For a long moment, you simply listen to the silence, to the faint hum of the earth beneath your feet, to the wind whispering through the cracks of stone. It feels like standing at the edge of something, not just a place, but a memory, a story waiting to unfold. The base of the crumbling tower feels colder than the open air around it, as though the stones have absorbed centuries of silence. You stand there for a moment, staring at the archway, your breath slow and steady. The shadows inside are so deep that they seem almost solid, like a dark veil draped across the entrance. No sound escapes from within, not the chirp of a bird, not the rustle of wind, only silence. Heavy and waiting. As you step closer, your fingers brush against the surface of the stone. It is rough and damp, speckled with patches of moss that cling stubbornly to the cracks. The tower is old, much older than the manor or the path you followed here. Its stones are not uniform. They are jagged, uneven, stacked with the kind of careful imprecision that suggests human hands, but also the slow erosion of time. The ivy wrapping its base seems alive, its dark green tendrils gripping the tower like a hand that will never let go. You hesitate at the threshold, peering into the shadows. The archway leads to a narrow corridor, its walls lined with stones blackened by age. A faint draft escapes from the darkness, carrying with it a smell of damp earth and something faintly metallic. Like rust, you take a deep breath, feeling the coolness of the air against your skin, and step inside. The shift is immediate. The outside world, the rolling meadows, the whispering wind, falls away as the silence of the tower envelops you. Your footsteps echo softly on the stone floor, each sound stretching into the stillness as if unwilling to fade. The corridor is narrow, barely wide enough for you to stretch your arms, and the walls feel close, pressing in with their weight and history as your eyes adjust to the dim light. You notice faint markings carved into the stones. Some are simple, scratches, perhaps the result of time and erosion, but others seem deliberate. Symbols, shapes, lines that form patterns you don't recognize. You run your hand over one of them, tracing its grooves, and for a moment, a strange sense of familiarity washes over you. It's as though the tower remembers something that you've forgotten. The corridor bends slightly to the right, leading to a circular chamber. Here, a thin shaft of light spills from above, illuminating the center of the room. The light catches on particles of dust, turning them into a slow, drifting constellation. The chamber is bare except for a spiral staircase carved into the wall, winding upward in a steady curve. The steps are worn, their edges rounded and smoothed by countless feet long gone. You approach the staircase, your footsteps soft and careful. The first step groans under your weight, the wood creaking like a voice waking from a long sleep. You pause, listening, but the sound fades, swallowed by the silence. Slowly, you begin to climb. The spiral feels endless. Each step leads to another, each curve of the staircase hiding the next. The walls are close here too, lined with more carvings, symbols etched into the stone with careful, deliberate strokes. Some of them are filled with moss, others are faint and nearly erased. They feel like a language, though one you cannot read. You wonder who carved them and why. Halfway up, you stop to rest. Your hand rests on the cool stone, and you look down through the hollow center of the staircase. The chamber below is small and distant, the shaft of light still cutting. Through the dust, you feel as though you are leaving the ground far behind, climbing not just upward but inward, deeper into the tower's memory. The air grows cooler as you ascend. You can hear the faint whistle of wind through cracks in the stone, like a distant, ghostly song. Occasionally, you catch glimpses of the outside world through narrow slits in the wall, a flash of grey sky, a blur of mist-covered fields. But the higher you climb, the more the outside world feels like a dream, something fading into the background. At last, you reach the top. The staircase ends at a small landing, leading to a wooden door. The wood is old, weathered and cracked, its surface dark with age. A simple iron handle waits, cool to the touch. You hesitate, your hand hovering over it. The silence on the other side feels heavier, as though something beyond this door has been waiting for a very long time. When you push the door open, the hinges creak. The sound sharp in the stillness. The room beyond is small, circular, with a low ceiling. The walls are lined with narrow windows, each framed in stone and filled with pale light. From here, you can see the meadows below, the mist curling over the hills like a living thing. The view is both beautiful and haunting, as if you were looking down on a memory rather than a place. In the center of the room stands a single object, a wooden table, its surface rough and uneven. On it lies a book, large and bound in cracked leather. Dust coats its cover, and the edges of its pages are yellowed and brittle. You step closer, your fingers trembling slightly as you brush the dust away. The cover bears no title, only a faint symbol, the same kind you saw carved into the stones below. You open the book carefully. Its pages whispering as they turn. The writing inside is strange. A mix of symbols and letters you don't understand. Yet, as you flip through, you feel a pull, as though the book is speaking to you in a language older than words. There are drawings too, maps, constellations, sketches of towers, forests, and faces that seem almost familiar. The wind picks up outside, whizzing through the narrow windows. It makes the pages tremble, as if the book is alive. You pause, your eyes scanning a page filled with circular patterns that resemble the spiral staircase. There is something written below it. The ink faded but still visible. You can't read the words, but you can feel their weight. You close the book gently, your thoughts heavy. The room is silent again, except for the faint hum of the wind. You step to one of the windows, looking out over the land. The mist is thicker now, curling like smoke, hiding the path you followed. The world feels distant, fragile, as if it could vanish at any moment. You linger there for a while, listening to the wind and the quiet heartbeat of the tower. There is something comforting about its solitude, its stillness. It feels like a place, outside of time, and touched by the chaos of the world beyond the hills. When you finally turn to leave, the staircase sweeps below, winding back into the shadows. The climb down feels different, slower, heavier, as though the tower is reluctant to let you go. Each step echoes in the silence, a reminder that you are here, that you touched its story, even if only for a moment. At the base of the tower, you step outside once more. The air feels warmer, softer, as though the world itself exhales when you return. The mist swirls lazily round your feet, and the meadows stretch out before you, endless and quiet. Behind you, the tower looms, its shadow long and still. You take a deep breath, letting the cool air fill your lungs. There is a sense of calm here, a quiet that settles into your bones. You glance back at the tower one last time, its dark stones, watching over the land like a silent guardian. Before turning your gaze forward, the path continues, winding through the mist, leading toward whatever waits beyond the hills. You step forward, your footsteps slow and deliberate, the whisper of the wind following you like a faint, distant song. The path narrows as it leads you downhill, the soft earth beneath your feet damp with mist. Each step feels slow now, as though the world itself is urging you to move with care ahead. The trees thin out, and you catch the first glimmer of water is still, pale surface reflecting the muted light of the sky. The lake emerges from the fog like a dream, its edges blurred, its depths hidden beneath an unmoving mirror of silver. You pause at the tree line, taking in the sight. The air here is heavier, saturated with the cool scent of water and earth. The mist drifts low over the surface of the lake, curling and weaving in patterns that seem almost deliberate, as if the fog itself is alive. There is no sound of birds, no rustling leaves, only the faint lapping of water against the shore. The silence feels deep, as though it has settled over this place for centuries. You step closer, your boots sinking slightly into the damp ground. The shoreline is lined with smooth stones, some half submerged, their surfaces slick with moisture. A single weathered log lies near the water's edge, its bark stripped away, bleached by time. You sit on it for a moment, feeling its coolness against your skin, watching the mist shift and swirl across the water. The lake is perfectly still. No ripples, no sign of life beneath its surface. It's as if time has stopped here, holding its breath. You lean forward slightly, peering into the reflection of the sky. The clouds above look softer in the water's mirror, blurred and weightless, while the pale light of the afternoon filters through them like threads of silver. For a moment, you close your eyes, The cool air brushes your face, carrying with it a faint scent, something green and sweet. Like distant pine mixed with rain, you inhale deeply, feeling the breath slow your heartbeat. Here, by the lake, everything feels distant. The tower, the meadows, even the winding path you followed to reach this place. There is only water, mist, and silence. When you open your eyes again, you notice something small floating near the center of the lake. At first, it's hard to see, a dark shape barely breaking the surface. You lean forward, squinting through the mist. It looks like a piece of driftwood, but it seems to deliberate. 'Tis symmetrical to be natural. It drifts slightly, then stops, as if anchored to the unseen depths below. You rise from the log and step closer to the water's edge. The stones shift beneath your weight, some dipping into the shallow water with a soft plop. The surface ripples faintly, distorting the reflection of the sky. You crouch down, your fingers hovering just above the water. It's so clear and smooth that touching it feels almost like breaking a spell. The water is cold. When you finally let your fingers dip in, sending tiny ripples outward, the chill runs up your arm, sharp and clean. You watch the ripples move toward the floating object, but it doesn't budge. It stays perfectly still, almost as if watching you in return. You decide to follow the shoreline, moving slowly around the curve of the lake. The ground here is uneven, littered with stones and patches of damp grass. Every few steps, you glance back at the floating shape, half expecting it to disappear into the mist. But it remains, silent and unmoving, a dark mark on the waters. Pale-faced dot as you walk. You notice something else, faint patterns on the stones near the shore. Some are simple scratches, like those on the tower's walls, while others seem deliberate. Circles, lines, and spiral-like shapes etched into the surfaces, half covered by moss. You kneel to examine one of them, brushing the damp moss away with your hand. The carving is shallow but clear, a spiral that widens outward like a ripple. In water, the sight of it sends a strange feeling through you, a memory you can't quite place. It's as if the tower's carvings and these marks are connected, part of the same language. You trace the spiral with your fingertip, the stone cool beneath your touch. The lake is silent behind you, as though waiting. When you stand again, you notice that the mist has shifted. It's thicker now, curling closer to the water's surface, and the floating shape is almost hidden. You move closer to the edge, squinting through the white haze. For a brief moment, you think you see something else, the suggestion of movement just below the surface, like a shadow gliding through the depths. It vanishes as quickly as it appeared, leaving the water still and empty once more. You take a step back, letting the sight sink in. The lake feels different now, heavier, as though it's guarding secrets you're not meant to uncover. The silence is almost too deep, the stillness almost too perfect. Yet there is a strange peace here, too, a quiet that wraps round you, urging you to slow down, to breathe, to simply exist. You find another log a little further along the shore and sit down. The wood is damp, but you don't mind. You watch the mist drift and fold. The floating shape now just a faint silhouette. In the distance, time seems to dissolve here, slipping away like water through your fingers. Minutes, maybe hours, pass as you simply watch, your mind quiet and still. The light shifts slowly, the pale sky turning softer, tinged with muted shades of gold and grey. The reflection on the lake changes with it, the water glowing faintly like liquid metal. You rest your hands on your knees, feeling the coolness of the air seep into your skin. Each breath feels deeper, slower, as if your body is sensing with the rhythm of the lake itself. Eventually, you rise again. Your footsteps are soft on the damp earth as you follow the shoreline back toward the path. You glance once more at the floating shape. Still there, still silent. It feels almost like a sentinel, a quiet guardian of the lake's secrets. You leave it behind. Stepping into the mist where the path picks up again. Winding the way into, the hills dot the lake remains behind you, hidden once more by the shifting fog. But the feeling of it stays with you, the cool stillness, the strange carvings. The sense of something just beyond understanding, waiting in the depths. Night descends like a heavy curtain, and the fog rolling over the village grows denser, almost alive. The pale glow of dusk is gone, swallowed by a grey veil that settles between the crooked huts. Wrapping every corner in silence, the earth beneath, your feet feel softer now, as though the ground itself is tired, saturated with the day's dampness. Each step produces a dull, muted sound, mud sucking at your boots, refusing to let go. The chill in the air is sharper than before, creeping into your lungs with every breath, leaving a faint sting in your throat. Even your breath becomes a visible wisp, a fleeting spectre in the mist. Passing between the huts, the thatched roofs blend into the fog, their shapes indistinct. Water drips from the eaves, the droplets striking the ground with slow, deliberate rhythms, like a heartbeat in the stillness. A breeze stirs the air for a moment, carrying with it the smell of wet, straw, moldy grain, and smoke that clings stubbornly to every surface. From somewhere near the center of the village, you catch the faint murmur of voices, though the words are lost in the mist, their syllables shredded into unrecognizable whispers. A dim light flickers under the door of one hut, spilling and thin, lines onto the mud outside. The shadows on the wall dance with the shifting glow of a candle inside. You pause for a moment and listen. A woman's voice drifts through the cracks, soft and rhythmic. Perhaps it is a prayer, or a lullaby for a restless child. Though you cannot understand the words, the tune is mournful, almost ancient, as if it has been sung here for centuries. For a moment, the sound seeps into your chest, pulling you away from the cold reality of the night. You move on, your steps leading you to the village square. A few piles of chopped wood lie abandoned, their rough edges glistening with moisture. Near the center, a handful of villagers huddle round a struggling fire. Its orange flames flicker and twist, painting the fog with streaks of light and shadow. The people stand with their hands outstretched, trying to absorb the fire's meager warmth. The exhaustion etched on their faces is unmistakable. One man glances at you briefly, his eyes heavy with sleeplessness and hunger. A wooden table stands close to the fire, holding a small clay bowl with the remnants of a duck, thin stew. A greasy layer has congealed on the surface, reflecting the firelight in dull patches. Beside it, half a loaf of coarse barley bread lies like a rock, too hard to chew without breaking teeth. Hunger gnaws at you when you look at it. For a moment, you consider reaching out, but a watchful gaze from one of the villagers makes you withdraw your hand. Here, even hunger follows its own silent hierarchy. On the edge of the fire's light, an old man sits on a worn stool. His face is a map of deep lines, shadows carving every wrinkle into a story. He is speaking, his low voice cutting through the hush with a strange authority. Among the words, you catch fragments like war, plague, and lord, words that taste of both fear and memory. Round him, two children sit cross-legged, their eyes wide, their bodies pulled close together. They listen as if his stories are the only truth they have, the only way to make sense of the darkness around them. You drift toward the barn on the far side of the square. Its door is ajar, and the warm, animal scent inside beckons you like a fragile comfort. Stepping in, you see two oxen still in their yokes, their breath rising in soft clouds. Their tired eyes follow your movements, and one of them shifts its weight, causing the wooden beams to creak. You run your fingers through a pile of hay, its texture damp and rough. Even this simple touch feels grounding, a reminder that something still breathes and lives in this night. Outside again, the wind picks up, pushing the fog into swirling patterns round the dying fire. The moon, half hidden by fast-moving clouds, casts a pale light on the muddy paths, highlighting the glimmer of frozen droplets on the rooftops. The village, in that faint silver glow, looks both fragile and ancient, as if it exists on the edge of time, ready to vanish into the mist. Two young men struggle to carry a heavy sack across the square. Their steps are uneven, their shoulders trembling with the effort. The sack slams to the ground with a dull thud, sending a burst of dust into the air. One curses under his breath, while the other silently lifts the burden again. You watch them for a moment, realizing that here, survival is not a choice but a fight fought every single day. The voices of two men catch your attention near the village's edge. Their tones are hushed but urgent. Words like Lord, debt, and punishment rise from the conversation like sharp stones in water. The air between them is tense, heavy with the promise of consequences. You do not linger. Some truths are better left undisturbed, especially in a place like this. When you return to the square, most of the villagers have retreated to their huts, leaving behind only the old man and a young boy. The fire is reduced to glowing embers, the warmth barely reaching your hands now. The old man whispers something, his face tilted upward toward the faint moonlight, as if asking for strength from an unseen force. The boy, hunched and silent, spins a small stone in his hands, lost in thought. You walk back to your hut, the path lit only by the pale gleam of the moon and the faint memories of firelight. The fog is lifting slightly, and you can make out the outlines of the fences and fields beyond the village. Still, every shadow seems to hide something. The door of your hut creaks softly as you push it open. The inside is cold but familiar. The straw bed calls to you, though it is little more than a pile of rough, dry grass. As you sit, the muscles in your body protest, stiff from the day's labor. Your hands, cracked and filled with dirt, sting faintly in the chill air. For a while, you sit in silence. The world outside feels muted, as if the fog has swallowed even the memory of sound. You close your eyes, and the night replays itself in your mind. The fire's glow, the old man's voice, the ghostly weight of the mist, somewhere deep within you. A thought stirs. How much strength does it take to endure this life, to keep moving forward when every day feels like a battle you're barely winning? The night is darker than any before. Clouds blot out the moon, and the fog no longer drifts. It clings, heavy and suffocating, like a shroud over the village. The air is still, unnervingly still, as if even the wind has grown tired of moving. Through these broken, weary lands, every hut is silent now, their doors shut tightly against the cold and whatever unseen spirits might roam the night. Only the faint crackle of dying embers in the square betrays that life still clings on here, thin and fragile. Your boots sink into the mud as you step outside, feeling the night air bite into your skin. There is no sound of laughter, no whispers of warmth or comfort, only the soft groan of wooden beams expanding under the chill. The paths are nearly invisible, swallowed by mist and shadow. You walk carefully, feeling your way, tracing the memory of footsteps made during bright hours. Every step feels heavy, as though the ground itself is trying to keep you here, holding you captive in this frozen moment of history. In the distance, a lone wolf howls, its voice cutting through the silence like a blade. It is not the cry of hunger, but something deeper, something that feels like a reminder of how small and fragile human existence truly is in this unforgiving world. The sound travels across the hills, bouncing between the trees. Before being swallowed by the fog, you pause for a moment, listening to the echo fade, and in that silence, you realize how easily the village, and everyone in it, could vanish, leaving behind nothing but crumbling huts and nameless graves. Near the old well, you spot a figure, a woman wrapped in a rough wool cloak, her face pale in the faint light. She carries a bucket of water. Though the weight of it seems to drag her entire body down, her eyes meet yours for a moment, and you see something there, resignation, perhaps, or a sorrow so deep that no words could ever capture it. Without speaking, she turns and disappears into the fog, leaving only the sound of her footsteps and the faint splash of water. The well itself is ancient, its stones slick with moss, its rope frayed from years of use. You lean over and peer inside, but the darkness swallows the bottom. The water that sustains life here is hidden, deep and cold, a reminder that survival is never given freely. It is drawn up, hand over hand, through blistered palms and aching arms. You rest your hand on the rim of the well, the stone damp and rough, and imagine the countless generations who have done the same, all of them fighting against the same relentless hardships. As you wander toward the edge of the village, the fields stretch out like a dark, endless sea. The harvest is meager this year, stalks of barley bent low, their heads thin and pale. In the faint moonlight, the fields look almost skeletal, the remains of what was once alive and thriving. A wooden scarecrow stands guard over nothing, its burlap head torn and empty, its wooden arms outstretched like a crucifix against the black sky. It is a lonely sentinel, a symbol of effort and fear, but one that cannot protect against the hunger gnawing at every belly here. You return to the village square, where a single lantern burns weakly on a wooden post. Its flame flickers with every breath of air, as though it could die at any second. Beside it, the old man from earlier sits once more, his posture bent and his hands trembling. He is alone now, murmuring something to himself, words you cannot quite catch. You approach slowly, and he looks up at you, his eyes hollow yet strangely sharp. "This life," he whispers, as though confessing to the night, "it is nothing like the stories they tell. There are no feasts, no shining nights, no songs around great fires. There is only work, hunger, sickness, and the hope that tomorrow you will wake and endure one more day." His voice falters, and for a moment neither of you speak. You sit beside him, feeling the weight of his words sink into your bones. In that silence, you can almost hear the heartbeat of the village itself, a slow, labored rhythm that speaks of survival and suffering intertwined. Asterisk, the hours crawl by, and the night deepens. You walk through the empty pots one final time, taking in the sight of every weathered wall, every sagging roof, every corner where shadows gather like silent witnesses. A cat darts across your path, its eyes catching the lantern light before it disappears into the dark. The wind picks up, brushing against your face like the faint touch of something unseen. You stop near the barn again, hearing the soft breathing of animals inside. They, too, are prisoners of this life, bound to labor and survival just as much as the people. The oxen shift in their sleep, and one lets out a tired, heavy breath. You reach out to touch its side through the wooden slats, feeling the warmth of life pulsing there. It is grounding, in a way reminding you that even in the harshest conditions, life persists, quietly and stubbornly. Near the northern edge of the village, you find an abandoned hut. Its door hangs off its hinges, the roof partially caved in. Inside, the remnants of a family's life are scattered: an overturned stool, a broken clay bowl, the ashes of a long-dead fire. You crouch down and pick up a small wooden toy from the dirt floor, its edges worn smooth by countless tiny hands. The toy is shaped like a horse, though its paint has long since faded. For a moment, you imagine the child who once played with it, their laughter echoing in a place that now holds only silence. The night weighs heavier with every passing hour. Your body feels drained, your mind foggy from the unrelenting cold and fatigue. Yet there is something hauntingly beautiful about this darkness, something raw and real. It strips away illusions, leaving only the bare truth of existence. There are no romantic tales here, no polished images of medieval life. There is only survival, and the quiet courage it demands. And so, as the first pale light of dawn begins to seep into the horizon, the village stirs once more. Smoke rises from a few chimneys, thin and grey, carrying with it the smell of burning wood and the faint hope of warmth. The people will wake, as they always do, and face another day of toil, hunger, and the endless struggle to endure. This is the truth of the Middle Ages, not the glittering armor and feasts shown in films, but the harsh reality of mud-soaked fields, empty stomachs, and nights filled with cold and fear. Every breath, every meal, every moment of warmth is hard-won. Life is fragile here, and death is never far away. Yet there is a quiet strength in these people, a resilience that has carried them through generations of hardship. As you leave the village behind, the images remain: the old man's weary eyes, the child's forgotten toy, the lonely scarecrow standing guard over barren fields. This world is not kind, but it is real. It reminds us that history is not made of stories told around fires, but of ordinary people enduring the extraordinary weight of survival. Thank you for walking through this world, for listening to its whispers, and for feeling the heavy silence of its nights. Let these sounds and images linger as you drift into sleep. Let them remind you that the past was not a storybook, it was life. Raw and unfiltered. Now, close your eyes. Imagine the distant firelight fading, the fog rolling away, and the quiet of this world embracing you. Sleep well, and let the echoes of this forgotten village carry you into dreams. As we reach the end of our story, and you begin to feel the silence of this old village in your mind, we sincerely thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you found this story meaningful or soothing, please like the video. It greatly helps us create more experiences like this for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our new videos. We love hearing your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share which types of stories or topics you'd like us to explore. Which historical periods intrigue you the most? Or are there other themes that help you relax? If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends or anyone who might need some calm. Every like, comment, share, and subscription is very valuable to us and supports this channel's mission to bring you peace and knowledge. Thank you for being here. Sleep well, and we'll see you in the next story.